Welcome to the July 17th, 2017 Planning and Voting Meeting of the Pine-Richland School Board. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mr. Kenny.
Dr. Banyas?
Here.
Mrs. Dawson?
Here.
Mr. Sundo?
Here.
Mr. Kashani?
Here.
Mr. DiTullio?
Here.
Ms. Goebel?
Here.
Ms. Johnston? Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Stegman?
Here.
Brief President statement. The board met in executive session prior to the combined meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. Move on to item 1.02, recognition of visitors. Anybody likes to approach the board, please do so. Seeing none, move on to item 1.03, correspondence. Mr. Kenny.
There is no correspondence this meeting.
Move on to item 1.04, minutes for approval. Motion to approve minutes as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to item 2.01, strategic plan.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay,
Thank you,
Miller.
Dr. Banyas. Do not intend to go through this in detail tonight, but merely wanted to place into the agenda in that strategic update spot some of the tentative thinking about next year. Something that we started last year, and communication was an area of focus that the board shared with me, and one of the refinements we made to our process was to provide periodic strategic updates. We also identified those strategies or areas that were key to taking the next step as an organization. So we have a lot of things that happen in any given year. What we have listed here are what has tentatively been identified as the most important, if you will, things. Those are things that, strategies that significantly impact students or involve a large number of our staff or deal directly with the educational program at Pine-Richland. So for most of the bullets, that's what you see. The last bullet point around managed print copy services agreement, this in a school district has significant impact. So from a financial and planning perspective, it's important that we work through a process to ensure we have a good value for the service received. But from a practical day-to-day planning, teaching, delivery perspective, copiers and printers are important to the function of how we deliver education. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing other things that don't involve paper, but it also it is a big part of things. So it is listed here as one of our finance and operations category items. So with that said, I'll stop at this point. This will be a topic of discussion at the board retreat scheduled for August 14th, but I did want to respond to any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Dr. Miller from the board?
Just one final comment. What I'm excited about is hopefully a lot of this looks familiar because there are items that we have discussed in sort of an approach phase this year, but the focus of having them included next year is to really ensure that they're happening effectively and well throughout all the layers of the district, at the building, at the classroom, and then at the individual student level. So we need to keep our focus in order to make sure that these things we talk about are meaningfully helping kids. Thank you, Dr. Banyas.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. We'll move on to the finance section. Mr. Sundo.
Item 3.01, motion to approve the financial reports dated July 17th, 2017, and accounts payable dated July 17th, 2017, in the amount of $714,617.84, and paid accounts for June and July in the amount of $8,358,323.59 as listed.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.02 is an informational item. There are no budget transfers for this month pursuant to PA School Code. Budget transfers are not permitted until after October 1st.
Second.
Information.
Oh, sorry.
Item 3.03, motion to authorize the transfer of $2,392,142 from the general fund to the capital reserve fund.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.04, motion to authorize the establishment of an I-class investment account with the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust for the capital reserve fund.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I do have one question. Can you comment on the liquidity of this account? I mean, we're keeping a separate account, and it has to remain liquid. So how is the liquidity of this account?
This one is entirely liquid. That's why this is the one that I selected to recommend. It has a very good interest rate. It does not have any Act 10 investments involved in it, and it's entirely liquid at all times, which is good because the purpose of that capital reserve fund, the way we have it structured, is to transfer those funds and then immediately use those within the fiscal year. So those won't be in there that long. The only funds that will be in there for a period of time will be the ones that are related to the stadium project, in which the expected time frame for that is in the spring. Otherwise, most of the other projects that we had scheduled for the capital reserve fund are happening now and then into the winter. There were some repair and maintenance type items in there, and we will address those throughout the year, and we'll continue to report on if we needed those, or if we would then take the leftover funds and apply them basically to the following year.
So they can offer a higher interest rate and still let you take the money out anytime you want?
Correct. There is a limit, I believe, on the number of transfers. It's either 6 or 8 in a month.
I see.
But that's no different from how we already handle the general fund as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.05, motion to approve the Pennsylvania School-Based Access Program Local Education Agency Agreement to participate for the 2017-2018 fiscal year.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question, is there any alternatives?
The only alternative to approving this agreement would be to not participate in the school-based access program, and in that case, essentially, we would be foregoing those federal dollars.
So there's no other alternative to the consultant as part of this agreement?
No, it's actually, it was awarded statewide.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.06, motion to approve the disposal of 2 mixers in the Pine-Richland Middle School cafeteria in accordance with Policy 622, GASB Statement 34.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Sundo. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. DiTullio.
Item 4.01 is the summer project update. I think the list is pretty self-explanatory, except for I have one question, unless you want to go into something different. My only question is, for those things that have moved into 2018, summer timeframe, out of this next fiscal year, what happens with the funding for that? Some things I think are going to be started this year, so I'm assuming those are going to be paid in this fiscal year, but some of the things are scheduled next year.
That's correct. And when I spoke with Gary, his intention is to get those items ordered right at the beginning of June. So he considers it summer because essentially he's telling himself that his staff would be available and school would be out, but that month is still part of this fiscal year.
Other than that, I got nothing.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's information, my bad. Okay, sorry.
Item 4.02 is a motion to purchase replacement doors for the Pine-Richland High School pool filter room area from AEG Monroe Company through Co-Stars. I do have a question on this as well.
Do we need a second?
Second?
We have a second then?
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just because Barb's not here doesn't mean this all has to fall apart, guys.
Yeah. She really calmed you better.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's good. All right, go ahead.
I'm really glad we signed her up for 4 years.
I know Mr. Zhang said that we don't need the fiberglass doors, but I'm wondering why, because we've got metal in a high chlorine environment, and those things don't get along real well. And fiberglass, I would think, would last a long time. And for the extra, I think it's like $2,300. To me, it would seem like that's a sound investment. I'm just wondering why.
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that, so I would have to follow up with him tomorrow. The option that we could do this evening would be to amend the motion to include that as an alternate, and then we can get back to you with what the reasoning is between the two. That would be on the higher end if we were to choose to do the fiberglass versus the metal. But unfortunately, I don't know that.
Right, so how do I do this? Because I would like to make a motion to approve the higher amount based on the reasoning, because I think that in the long run, it will save the district money. That's my
Why don't you make a motion to approve as an alternative? Well, actually, you might make the prior, you can make a motion, either motion you want, I suppose. You want to change the motion. I would like to have a discussion before we did that.
I propose an amendment to motion 4.02, and the amendment is motion to purchase replacement doors for Pine-Richland High School pool filter room in an amount not to exceed $7,000. I need a,
Just so,
yeah, it's, the quote here is for 46 plus 23.
Okay.
7, good enough? And so in an amount not to exceed $7,000, the motion is,
Second.
Okay, so we have a second on Peter's amendment. Do we have any further discussion on?
I just want to reread the motion to make sure I have it. Motion to purchase replacement doors for the Pine-Richland High School pool filter room in an amount not to exceed $7,000. Correct? Okay.
Yeah, $7,003, just to be technical. because that's
$7,003.
$7,100.
$7,100.
That makes a lot of sense.
$7,100. Okay, and that was Peter, and then seconded by Dennis, correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, does everybody understand the amendment? Any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now, does that pass the original motion?
Now you got to,
Okay,
the motion as amended is on the floor before you vote.
okay.
And it's been seconded, so.
It's already been seconded. Okay, so now we're voting on the
Amended motion.
amended motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons and Mr. DiTullio.
Item 4.03 is a motion to approve Open Systems in Pittsburgh to complete the door access control aspect of the Pine-Richland Middle School entrance project in the amount of $10,200.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.04 is the high school stadium door access control. A motion to approve Open System Pittsburgh to complete door access control integration at the high school stadium for Panasonic Video Insight security systems in the amount of $35,900.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.05 is a motion to approve the disposal of classroom desks at Pine-Richland High School in accordance with policy 622.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.06 is disposal of metal brackets, the disposal, or the motion to approve the disposal of 80 television brackets and 100 over-the-board brackets in accordance with policy 622, and I think we're going to get like a whopping $21 out of this.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.07, technology equipment disposal. Motion to approve the disposal of technology equipment, hardware, and accessories through a recycling center in accordance with policy 622.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. DiTullio. Academic achievement, Ms. Dawson.
Someone has information for us.
Yes, that would be me. So in terms of these updates, I'm going to handle the first four before handing it over to Dr. Miller. But in terms of progress reporting, since we had last discussed and met, we have been able to move forward on our timeline with the committee work, and we proposed the drafts to SunGuard, which also brought about a discussion regarding an upgrade to that system. So we have just begun that work today to move to the 4.0 upgrade, which will allow us to then build these changes into the new system as opposed to building it now and then rolling it out and then upgrading again later. So we should be on target for that to be rolled out this year. In terms of the Star 360 and COGAT 7, I'll address those together. Those are both the universal screeners that we'll be utilizing this year. We will use the COGAT 7 in grades 2 and 5, and that'll be the cognitive abilities test to look at where students are, where their ability is, and we'll be able to see their achievement as well. And that will help us flag students that we potentially need to look at for further testing or intervention. The same will go with Star 360, so that will be tested in math and reading, and that is K to 6, all students, and then 7 through 12 for special education. So we will have that data and be able to use both the data from the Star 360 and the COGAT for the decision trees, which you see on there, the MTSS decision trees, where we're looking at students, and based upon where they're scoring, we'll be able to assign different interventions that we believe would be beneficial for them and track their progress as we are currently doing, but we upgraded those or updated them so that they would reflect the new Star 360 scores and benchmarks using percentile ranks and the like. Are there any questions about those items? Discussion?
The last item, SAT, ACT prep, this has been a recommendation in the Academic Achievement and Growth Report the last few years, and without getting into the specific local company, we did have discussions and received a proposal from a local company to provide service to families who would choose to have their kids participate either in SAT prep or an ACT prep in a mixture of a series of practice tests, and in between those practice tests are face-to-face instruction basically in small group. There's a limit to the size of that group. We're seeing an increase in the number of students who take the ACT. At this point, we are seeing a lot of students who will take both exams, not necessarily leave the SAT only for the ACT, but we are seeing that. Without getting into the specific company at this point, what we're leaning in the direction of recommending that we try this. The particular company has a good footprint with Pine-Richland families and positive feedback in terms of the value that the families found in that small group course. We would be looking at something around an agreement to somehow use facilities certain amounts of time in order to make that convenient for our families. We do have families who would not be interested in that, which is certainly fine. They would scale the program so that the number of interested students would determine the number of small group sessions that would be held. Naviance, which is the next item, does have an SAT prep program with it, but what we do find is that some students do not prefer online preparation tools for something like SAT or ACT. They benefit from a more traditional face-to-face learning practice modality. But we have other resources available for families that we offer as a part of what we generally provide to them. So sort of the question I have for the board, is there support to move in this direction? And if so, would you like to have additional discussion in either academic achievement, or could we bring something forward to a regular board meeting for information and then consideration? You know, how would we like to move forward with that?
It's really at the wish of the board.
Then, the quick question I think I have is that, would this then replace that function on Naviance?
It would not. This would be something, right, this would be in addition to, some families choose to not use Naviance, for example. It's a functionality that exists if they use it or don't use it. This would be somewhat of a partnership for a period of time where we would provide the space and opportunity, and it would be a service available to the students and families in the district to either take advantage of or not take advantage of.
So, I know that we have had a lot of this sort of prep work done as fundraisers for certain sporting groups and other, are you aware of that? That we have had, you know, test prep sessions.
As a fundraiser?
Mhm.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. They would have, there were I mean, Jean would know about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Yeah, but, you know, they've had different sessions, you know, where if you know, parents would pay for their student to benefit by a test prep session, and then, you know, it would support a group.
Okay. We'll look into that. I'm not...
Are you aware of that?
At one point, I can't remember which, booster group they did offer it, but it's been some time, a couple of years maybe.
A couple of years, maybe. I didn't see any last year.
Yeah, I don't recall
But,
that.
and this is just a parent perspective on it. I mean, I did not find the sessions very helpful, and my students didn't either, because it really was a short snapshot of something that was more in-depth. I know that the site that Naviance has, where you can do ACT and SAT prep, was very beneficial to my oldest daughter.
For sure.
Yeah, so I personally am not as interested in that, but I'm one person.
And what we have heard and from families and from students, I mean, some do perfectly well in an online self-paced kind of work through it mode, and then there are some students who absolutely do not enjoy that.
Right.
And the question, for us as a district is, do we want to consider doing something, running something for a year, seeing what the interest is? This particular company, again, as I said, does have some
I mean, if parents are interested,
Right.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I just think that the Naviance strategy is, I think there's different strategies, as you said.
and we need to do them all. Right, we need to
Right.
ensure familiarity with all of them.
And I mean, buying a book at Barnes & Noble and timing yourself is probably the best thing to do. And remediating.
Yeah, so again, I think, our experiences with so many different kids and different styles and interests, what works for one may not work for another. The more opportunities that we have in general, the better.
I'm supportive. I mean, it provides another opportunity. It may work better for certain families due to scheduling, timing, location, et cetera. So let's try and reflect and get feedback and see where we are. So I'm comfortable just bringing this as a motion, any agreement we would have to a full board meeting.
I guess one thing that I would be hesitant to as a district, and this is a concern, I think, in general, that we have to be careful not to endorse certain things as a way to, this is the way that you should do it. So I think we need to be careful and be very specific about there are different learning styles. These are the several options that we have, and to not give the appearance that we the board or we the administration support this company as a solution. It's an option, but not a solution, because it sets them up for personal failure if it doesn't work, because it is only one of many strategies.
Yeah, understood, and that's why I brought it in this way to the board, to hear those different opinions. That's great, thank you.
Can anybody comment as to noted trends and the role that these assessments may play in accessing post-secondary education, say 10 years from now?
How much accuracy there is 10 years from now, but
Yeah.
I mean, it starts to tail off after about a year or two because they change so much. But
Yeah,
I'll take 5.
there's
3.
certainly
Does
a
anybody
need today. And I guess what I'm suggesting is, if you build it, they may not come. But if they do come, then it's a service provided to some families, and that's been a part of what we've been talking about for several years. If it isn't effective, it won't last very long. And so I think part of any test prep type company is the results that they can help families achieve. And if they help families achieve results for students who go through certain steps in their process, then that's a benefit to the family. All we would be doing is helping to connect the dots, because sometimes parents are there's a lot of information out there. Now, we've talked about Naviance. We may be using 1/10 of the capacity of that tool, but even if we use 100% of the capacity of that tool, it's still not going to be a tool that works for everybody, because we got different people and different interests.
And I think one of the opportunities in Naviance, like even looking at this little short list here, the career key and the career planning. So, once they're into high school, and this even goes with the SAT. So I had one of my daughters take an SAT test in 7th grade just to see what happened, and it benefited her because, within our theme, we're here to learn, right, and learn how to learn. So that helped her understand how she needs to learn that type of test-taking strategy early on. In Naviance, I think if we did put some of it in the classroom in 8th grade to get them teed up to look at their career ideas early into high school, then their courses would be easier understood of why it's important. It's a very tough transition.
Yeah, and Dr. Pasquinelli has talked at length about the value of now connecting this 7 to 12 and being more intentional about ensuring somehow parents know this tool exists as well, because not all students are going to go home and talk about it. So embedding it in an assured way, part one, but also ensuring parents are aware of the tool is a critical step for us. So he's talked about that. And again, that's from my perspective, that's a needed, important, necessary thing we need to do.
Maybe
this
we
is
need
something
to have
different that may also have value.
Some parent-student homework, for lack of a, do it together with your guardian and your parent. Some exercise, even if it is to introduce. I'm serious.
Yeah, I know you are.
The company that we spoke with, they did share, we have right now, according to them, about 110 students that are currently using their program. Those are 11th and 12th graders. So the community is already, tied into to a degree to this opportunity. It doesn't have to be this company, but I think the concept of additional test prep face-to-face. And again, for some, that's the appropriate means for learning. Some of them, Khan Academy or Naviance or something like that will work as well. So it is. It's just another option.
Procedurally, I would think this is the type of thing a committee would flush out and bring a recommendation to the board. You asked, in my opinion.
The only thing I would say on that is the the committee we talked about this, the committee made a recommendation that the administration look into it, and we have the administration's recommendation already. That's the only thing I'm just bringing that back to the forefront for everyone is committee sort of said, yeah, we're hearing this, parents are saying, do we have that resource? Committee said generically, more resources, improving SAT scores is a goal or a good thing generally. And now we're at the point where we have a recommendation from the administration. Just to tie that together.
But I see it as a closed loop, Peter. Every year, there's something that I think the committee should look at, discuss, and bring to the board. I think it's appropriate in committee.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Miller, thank you for keeping the dialogue open.
Good. So let's schedule an academic achievement committee meeting.
Are we moving on yet?
To schedule a meeting?
No, to
Oh.
the next topic. Or to schedule a meeting.
We can, but I would request then that we schedule a meeting, because I think this is something, we've danced on this really for several years, and not that it is the most urgent thing, but it is important, and I think it's a value to our family, so I'd like to figure out when we can talk about it. We will be, we were prepared as soon as tomorrow to
Well, that would make it urgent.
talk about it, but we would need to advertise the meeting.
Quadrant 2, right? Important but not urgent.
Correct. And we don't want to miss quadrant 2.
September perhaps then, unless you have other items for September.
So in other words, if we could, the vendor is ready and the administration is ready to make a recommendation. So
We're not quite ready.
Not
So
quite
we
ready.
have
We're
not
quite ready
pushed
for
back
fall.
yet at the company, because I truly wanted to hear a little bit of feedback, because this is something new and different for us. So this feedback was helpful.
So do you want August? August is fine.
How about, well, we have a retreat on the 14th, and we have an open time on the 28th. Is that all right?
Yep.
So academic achievement meeting on the 28th. We'll get some additional information to the board before that, or to the committee before that, and the whole board. Good.
It's a great way to start.
It sure
the
is.
year with
Academic achievement.
academics.
Boom.
Right there.
Boom. Good.
If we would go that direction, though, the nice thing is that it starts aligning with some of the SAT, ACT assessments that are going to
windows,
be coming
right.
up, too, so that would get us right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Sure. Good. Okay. Okay, excellent, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Number 5.02 is a motion to approve a 5-year contract with Hobson for Naviance software for students grades 7 through 12.
Second.
The item has moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
There were, I'm sorry. There just were a couple questions around this contract. This is a 5-year contract, so there would be some penalties if we would decide to move out of this contract prior to that 5-year. Now, the plus of the 5-year is we're locked in at the rate that is agreed upon, so if Naviance makes some adjustments to their cost structure, we're locked in at the rate that we're signing this contract at this point. If they do have upgrades over the course of those 5 years, we automatically get those upgrades at no charge, so that's a positive as well. And there were some questions about quality of program or product over those 5 years. They don't have anything stipulated. They did state that the expectations are that quality is maintained. If any aspect of the program is not able to be maintained, if there are some glitches, that things aren't working as they should, then that would be grounds to terminate the contract if we should so choose. As Ms. Dawson was stating, this is a software package that we've had for a number of years. The difference now is we're linking middle school and high school together, which is new. In the past, it was a middle school product, and then students started some work in there, and then it was kind of start over in 9th grade. Now we'll continue to have that information that back to scheduling and graduation plan. We think there's some real opportunities for kids to start to get to know career paths and ideas as early as 7th grade, and that'll help guide them into their course selections into the high school. So we're excited about having the 7 to 12 product.
Me too.
What is the burden of proof for performance maintenance?
Well, all they said is, with us working within the program, if there are some features that we are agreeing upon that are not working appropriately, then would have some opportunities to dissolve the contract. No other details to that about, what stipulates working versus not. But again, we've outlined some of the new products that we're recommending, and they give you a pretty nice description of the expectations that you should see if you so choose those products.
Hey, Pat, do you have the Naviance order form up on that motion? Because actually, I don't think there's really a performance clause in it. And when we looked at this earlier last week, I didn't see this form, I just saw the proposal. This just says it's terminable. So I don't know that there even is a, I could be reading it wrong.
Yeah, if you pull up the order form and scroll down, when they reference a bit further, I think.
Yeah, paragraph 15 at the bottom.
Keep going. Let's scroll up just a little bit before you go down to 15. Go up all the way to the top of that page. A little bit, no, up to the top of the page where, yep, keep going.
Towards one.
Yeah, right there. So this is reference to a product student tracker for the high school specific to that piece, not to the overall service agreement. So I did ask, again, for the details of the service agreement, which we have that as well, and that's where it gets into the details of the performance side that you were questioning.
Has this product, from an administrative standpoint, do you believe that it has provided the value that you paid for?
At the high school, yes. At the middle school, not as much. We just referenced parent involvement. You can see the usage on the parent side at the high school versus the middle school significantly different when students get into high school. And we're hoping to change that, again, through this 7 to 12 connection, get parents connected early on and keep them connected with their students throughout. But student use is high. All students participate in a number of different self-assessments over the course of their time, 7 through 12. And that is used by students to help guide some of their career planning, college planning. A lot of good information in there for families that haven't experienced the college application process, so really guides them through and supports, in addition to our school counselors, provide some good additional supports. But definitely much higher end high school than middle school.
I feel there's a lot of tools in here that might not be getting utilized, and that was my question. I haven't gone through that with my kids. I was wondering if we've got a track that says, hey, this is the kind of percentage and we feel a bit of value, that's what I want.
Yeah, so that one of the things I think we have to do a better job is heavy use at obviously the high school level when you get to junior and senior, and then really for our not just our counselors, but for our teachers to understand how they can integrate this program into many other classes, not just when guidance counselors come in and talk to kids about career planning. So that's one of the things that we're really focusing in on now that we'll have this 7 to 12 product, is where does it fit in other areas to tie in, because again, you think about students in just about any course doing some type of career exploration and understanding opportunities that fit within that course, and then tie Naviance into it. There's some good opportunities for kids there.
Is there any further discussion on item 5.02? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Student Services, Mr. Stegman, would you mind taking this, please?
Not at all. Motion 6.01, the AIU Waterfront Learning Agreement. Motion to approve the 2017-2018 AIU Waterfront Learning Agreement as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Motion 6.02, the Watson Institute Agreement. Motion to approve the Watson Institute Agreement as attached for the 2017-2018 school year.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
What is our loading with Watson right now?
When you say loading, do you mean how many
How
students
many
do we have?
students do we have, and is there any work being done to try to pull some of the students back into mainstreaming?
Sure. So we have 5 to 6 students there right now. And with every IEP meeting, there's always discussion about the possibility of coming back to the school district and, discussion of what steps can and should be taken to make that happen. Right now, none of the students at Watson are in the process of a transition back. However, we do have a number of students at other approved private schools that are in that process, so.
Yeah, and to me, it's not, that doesn't come into, the agreement for me is fine, it doesn't come into the funding, but it comes into, I think, the experience of the student when they integrate back into the high school, into the middle school. I think that there's a lot of benefits that they might not get at some of these other facilities. Understanding it's not a fit for everyone, but I didn't know if there was a concerted effort for that, so I was curious as to what our...
I agree with you 100%,
Yeah.
and it's always...
It is a more restrictive placement, and there's definitely a concerted effort to look at that.
Right.
Any further discussion on item 6.02? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6.03, motion to approve the 2017-2018 agreement between Pine-Richland School District and the MHY Family Services as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Stegman. Move on to staff services. Ms. Scoville.
Item 7.01, motion to approve the personnel items as presented.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
A quick question. How are the coaches' stipends arrived at? What philosophically and strategically?
Collective bargaining agreement.
The stipends are ultimately listed within the collective bargaining agreement that we have negotiated with our teachers union. And it is an area of focus in our upcoming negotiation, one that was identified even last contract negotiation, that when you look at the different stipends within that agreement, there's not a lot of internal consistency about that and how those numbers were derived. They've been there for a number of years and either received a flat dollar increase across all of them or a flat percentage increase across all of them, but there's not been an overly strategic or concerted look at that. That is definitely an area that we have on our list of items to look at because we as administration as well see some of those internal inconsistencies and absolutely it's an area that needs to be reviewed.
Is there a similar, let's say restriction, but is there similar guidance applied to the actual positions themselves, or is that more or less left to the AD, or how are the actual positions determined?
Sure. The positions that are known at the time that the collective bargaining agreement is reviewed and agreed upon are listed within the appendix. The collective bargaining agreement provides, though, that if at any point, first of all, the district has the right to fill or not to fill any one of those supplemental positions if we deem it to be necessary or not necessary. That's ultimately administration, athletic director, principal, whatever it may be, as far as getting feedback on that issue. If there are any new supplementals that we believe are necessary to be added, generally that's a meet and discuss issue with the union. We go to them, say, hey, listen, we see a need for X, Y, or Z supplemental. This is the rate that we were thinking about paying. We try to find that internal consistency on a similar club with similar enrollments and the like to try and set that value. The teachers union has not historically given us any pushback on the creation of supplementals and the dollar values that we have attempted to assign. But it's looking at what clubs do we have operating, what do we need as far as supervision is concerned, and from an athletic department perspective, similarly, we absolutely take a lot of the recommendation from the director of athletics based upon the enrollment, the numbers, the teams, and the like. So
we do, if there's a request for an additional position, we do bring that to the board. It's something that is communicated, it wouldn't just appear, it wouldn't just be in the list. It's something that we specifically talk about, and I would say we're hesitant to add supplemental positions and cautious. We really want to ensure that the program has a history of enrollment and interest before looking at supplementals, and the reality of fiscal good times and bad times is that when we reach challenging fiscal times, some of those additional programs are scrutinized and considered for elimination. And so we try to really take a long view of any recommendations so that we can sustain them over time. But when it comes to the bang for the buck, for the hours invested by 99% of the supplemental contract holders, they're investing significant time with kids, generally in an area of the kid's passion, and for very little compensation, but it's beneficial.
No question. But on that point of bang for the buck, are any of the programs positive revenue generators? Might sound like a stupid question for high school.
I don't believe so. The only one that's really I don't want to speak out of turn.
I understand what you mean by revenue generation.
Do any of them generate positive net income?
Are you referring to athletic programs or
Yeah.
activities or any?
Let's stick to the athletic programs.
I can say this, we do have some athletic programs that we collect ticket revenue for, essentially.
I don't think that's what he's getting at, though.
Well, it's part of the answer.
Okay. The way that functions, though, when we collect revenue for specific sports, it kind of goes into a pool for the year, which is all part of the general fund, and it assists to pay officials for all of the sports, including the ones that do not have ticket revenue.
Okay, thank you.
How often are the supplementals that aren't, like, somebody leaves a position, obviously you got to fill the interview, how often are they re-looked at?
We evaluate them on an annual basis. So we, over the last specifically even over the last 2 years, we've been very intentional with our building principals who are overseeing the building level supplementals, as well as Mr. Shoup in the athletic department, as well as the building level technology coaches and the like, to make sure that we have a uniform evaluation process for each and every, not just employee, but also all of those supplemental contracts, so that those coaches are looked at, they are provided feedback, and the discussion can occur as to whether that's something we want to retain in the future year, because as you know, these are basically one-year appointments on an annual basis. It's not a guaranteed ongoing position. We look at those annually.
And forgive me for not remembering if it was part of this, but where do we see volunteer coaches? Or do we not have any anymore?
The volunteer coaches, if you look, are on the personnel action items list, not the supplemental list.
Even tonight, if you were to look at that.
If you look
list,
at page
you'll
2
see them.
on that list, you should see volunteer coaches in there.
Under independent volunteer, okay.
You got it, Mr. Kashani?
I do, thank you.
Does anybody have any further questions or comments on item 7.01? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
Item 7.02, motion to approve the affiliation agreement with Drexel University as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.03, motion to approve the student teachers as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.04, motion to approve the second reading of policy 915, boosters, parent organizations as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.05, motion to approve the second reading of policies 203, 204, 209.2, 251, and 255 as listed below and attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
And 7.06 is an information item, use of tobacco and tobacco-like products.
Dr. Pasquinelli, can you speak to that briefly?
Yeah. This is just a informational item. We're going to start the approval process for this policy. New language from PSBA and also from Allegheny County Health Services that we've integrated into our Policy 222. Language around what we're seeing an increase of are vapes and e-cigarettes in our schools. So we want to make sure that we are up to date with our policy and then make sure we have good, clear information to our students and community.
Thank you, Ms. Goebel. Move to operational services. Mr. Lyons.
Item 8.01 is a motion to approve the disposal donation of outdated math and science social studies textbooks, sorry.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Dr. Manis, thank you for arranging that.
My pleasure. Thank you for approving it.
Item 8.02 is a motion to approve a proposal from Kristen Van Stryen for E-rate consulting services at a cost of $4,000.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 8.03 is a motion to approve the purchase of 18 replacement administrative computers from Hewlett-Packard in the amount of $25,362 as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 8.04 is a motion to approve the PA-ETEP agreement as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
And item 8.05 is just a notice for public information. I don't know if Dr. Pasquinelli or just comment.
Well, we have talked about this in the past. Our buses do have the capabilities of audio recording. We have a policy that has been board approved, so we do intend on the buses that are capable to record audio and video to do so starting this school year. So we will have that posted on all school buses, and we already have in our communications that things such as the discipline code, that this is there is that option for us to do that, but we'll make sure that is clearly communicated again to our students and families, so they know that the audio and the video would be turned on. In addition, last school year, SDA had agreed to install additional cameras on our buses. So prior there was one near just the front of the bus pointing back. They're installing on our larger buses cameras midway, which will capture some better images in the back of the bus as well. And again, we see that as a positive for everyone. Bus safety obviously is an important thing for us to consider. We can reinforce expectations with students when they are choosing not to follow those bus safety rules, and then reinforce it with them when we get a chance to meet and discuss. So we want to make sure this was out in front of the board. You were aware of this, and like I said, we'll make sure communication goes out as well.
And just to clarify, so there are 4 cameras per long bus. One looks forward, one looks towards the door, one looks back, and then this 4th one will be halfway back, looking at the tail end of the bus.
So, are we putting the sign on every bus, even if it's not equipped?
Not for the audio?
Yeah, why not, even for buses that aren't equipped, why not still post a sign just to keep kids and drivers honest?
It wasn't our intention. Our plan was only to put it on the buses where they were equipped. All buses have video, but
but the audio, until they all get to that point, again, that may be every bus, long and short, everyone in between. But our intentions were just those buses that were equipped and actually recording audio.
I understand, I'm just thinking we might want to think about putting the signage on every bus.
It's kind of like if you have a house and you put up a sign that says, "We do not have alarms here."
Yeah.
I guess I understand the point, but I don't know how you do it if you don't actually have something there.
It's still a deterrent, it's just a visual deterrent.
Yeah, you make a phone call and they, you call a company and they say this may be recorded.
Right.
Hey, you may be recorded.
It's a deterrent, it's just food for thought.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I lost track. Whose equipment is this?
Whose equipment?
Yes.
STA's.
SDA. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to request the video and now the audio, so they do record that, and they will provide us with, through a web-based program, we're able to hear or see the recording.
This was part of the contract with them? Thank you.
Yeah, that was part of their selling point when they came to us. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Move on to board business. Item 9.01, PASA, PSBA School Leadership Conference. Motion to approve the attendance of any interested board member at the PASA, PSBA School Leadership Conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania, beginning October 18, 2017, and going through October 20th, 2017.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I will just mention, it is my intention to attend again, so thank you from the board, and should anybody else want to attend, let me know. We can coordinate.
Thank you for your interest, Mr. Lyons. Item 9.02, Facilities Litigation. Recommended action, motion to approve the release and settlement agreement and consent judgment order in the Evanco litigation to rescind Resolution 2, dated September 12, 2016, to adopt amendment to Policy 103, Non-Discrimination in School and Classroom Practices, Policy 103, Attachment, Policy 248, Unlawful Harassment, Policy 248, Attachment, and to amend page 14 of the 2017-2018 Discipline Code, all as presented.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have something. The use of children and the elevated emotions surrounding children's issues to advance a cause is revolting to me. When adults who cannot formulate a successful argument supported by fact resort to planting their flag of cause into the hands of children, true cowardice is demonstrated. It matters not what the issue is. Our society determines its rules. Its parents teach their children these rules in hopes of a seamless, painless integration into society. When society decides to change the rules, it's done so in adult forums. Once changed, these rules are again taught to our children. To circumnavigate this process that ensures continuity and productivity is a sign of apathy. I lament this organization's position on this matter, not because of the issue, but due to the lack of fortitude to put the issue in its rightful place for the qualified debate it requires.
Point of information, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules, specifically Policy 003, requiring 2 readings of policy.
Second.
That type of motion would take precedence.
Right, that's kind of an amendment, right, in a way? Any further discussion on Mr. Lyons' motion?
Mr. Lyons, could you please repeat your motion?
A motion to suspend the rules, specifically Policy 003, related to the requirement to have 2 readings of board policy.
So this would fast-track this issue through without traditional public comment?
We'll take that as discussion. It would, much like Resolution 2 itself, which was de facto policy on this topic, it would require only 1 vote for this, much like Resolution 2 received.
Do we have a second on his motion?
We did,
Yes,
Mr.
yeah, that's
Kashani.
why,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
However, Resolution 2 was in front of the public for 4 months. Can I get them off on that?
No, that's valid. I think this issue has been debated publicly for 18 months. I'm not sure that, but I appreciate the difference. I do.
I would make the distinction that in this particular case, the amendments of the policies are subject to the agreement, and for that reason are in a different category than the usual policy. So I would support the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Mr. Lyons' motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
We have 3 noes.
A roll call vote, please.
Dr. Banyas.
Yes.
Ms. Dawson.
No.
Mr. Sundo.
Yes.
Mr. Kashani.
Yes.
Mr. DiTullio.
No.
Ms. Goebel.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Stegman.
No.
It's 5 to
5 to
3.
3.
The motion passes.
Okay. Amended motion, excuse me, that motion is passed. Now we move to the 9.02 motion proper. Any further discussion on 9.02?
Yeah, I just have to second Steve's comments and say that of the motion in front of us, there are a lot of positive things here that I wish we could focus on. Unfortunately, we're going to be focusing on the negatives of this, in my opinion, and it's what Steve spoke of. However, in saying that, sometimes there's laws out there that some of us may not agree with. I personally know of laws that I do not agree with, but they're laws. They're pushed on us because that's the way society works. I do disagree with the way that this has happened, but this is, unfortunately, what is happening. I completely disagree with what will happen from certain aspects of it, and others are what I wish really was brought to light.
Any further discussion? From my perspective, this action recognizes what I consider to be legal realities. It is actually fairly unique in my research in its scope and its selectivity, which is one of the reasons why I support it. It affirms our commitment to accepting transgender students. It recognizes the different challenges involved in locker rooms and with gender questioning individuals in the light of a public school. And for that reason, I will support it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed?
No.
2 noes?
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Stegman.
No.
Ms. Goebel.
Yes.
Mr. Kashani.
Yes.
Ms. Dawson.
Yes.
Dr. Banyas.
Yes.
Mr. Sundo.
Yes.
Mr. DiTullio.
No.
And Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
6 to 2. Motion
Motion
passes.
passes. I do want to thank the board for dealing with such a contentious issue as this, for spending as much time as we've spent, and for coming up with a fairly unique agreement that, while it certainly will not satisfy everyone, it recognizes some of the things that I alluded to earlier. And it shows that the system can work to a compromise, at least at our level. Item 9.03 is a reminder of a board retreat scheduled for August 14, 2017, prior to the planning meeting. Move to item 10.01, reports.
Dr. Joe Domagala successfully defended his dissertation, Creighton University, and so if you have the opportunity to see Joe or congratulate him on that achievement, I would appreciate that you would do so. An update in terms of our district website, Ms. Hathorn has been working to upgrade, the look and feel of the Pine-Richland website. There's a lot of improvements that will come with that. One being the responsiveness of the website to any device and device size. We know that most people, many of our parents use the website extensively, calendar functions of that website, individual teacher pages, etc. In addition to being very clean looking and aesthetically pleasing, the functionality, including the ability to support those with visual disabilities in terms of compliance with some of the required laws, that is a part of that. So she is getting ready to flip the switch. There's no otherwise functional changes to the content, but it will be, we believe, more attractive and more effective for our families to utilize. So how'd I do with that?
Very good. In fact, we know 60% of our parents are accessing our e-blasts through a mobile device, so it is definitely needed. So it should be a good new look for everybody to see, so stay tuned.
Ms. Hathorn, is there some relationship between this eSavvy, I'm getting it wrong, what's the new app, the community scheduling app that was advertised over the summer?
Is that the township?
Yeah.
That's the township?
You mean Richland Township?
It was eSavvy or something? it's
Yeah,
called?
that was something
eCitizen?
separate.
Yeah, that's the township.
Correct.
Yeah,
Is there
no.
any link at all in communications?
No, but, if they need our support with anything, we're always willing to share messages, so.
Thank you.
We do try to build a community database, if you will, of email addresses.
So that's a good point, that while they're collecting their information, we're actually planning to connect with them even further so that we can continue building our database of residents who are actually signed up for a community-specific e-blast. So it will improve. So,
Good luck.
Good point.
And just a final comment with respect to 9.02, we'll have a communication sent out following tonight's meeting.
From Pine Parks, I just wanted to mention that if you didn't get to enjoy any of the community days, I don't know everyone's community and what you've done, but Pine community, which I've had the privilege of sitting on that board for a while, it was a fantastic day. It really shows how the community comes together, and there's a lot of out there for the community to do other than just community days. There's food at night and a bunch of different things that you can do at these parks, not just Pine, but also Richland. And I suggest that everyone go out and take a look at what your communities can provide to you, because there's a lot out there that I think people don't realize, whether it's camps for the kids, whether it's just time with the family, because it's hard to do sometimes. When you get home and you go see a movie at the park, it's a really nice experience. So fantastic what they do at the Pine community. I know Richland has some stuff as well. So.
Thank you, Mr. Tullio. Any additional reports? Time for our second recognition of visitors. Anybody wish to approach the board? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for watching.